Welcome to Unfair Fights. My name's Rebekah. This is my brother Nathan. I'm a young earth creationist. He believes in evolution and an old universe. And tonight, as usual, we're having a sibling showdown. Nathan's going to be challenging me on an issue, and I haven't been able to research it. He's going to challenge me. Go ahead, tell him what you're going to challenge me on, Nathan.
So tonight we're going to be talking about a relatively obscure land feature on the planet of Earth, the Detroit Seamount. The Detroit Seamount. So if you've never heard of it, it's probably most of you have not. It's part of the what's called the Emperor Seamount chain, and you may be more acquainted with its more recent addition, Hawaii. So the island chain of Hawaii is part of this Seamount chain. And tonight I'm going to be, challenging Rebekah with a couple of things. So we might as well get into it. Or do you have a few comments to say before we get started, Rebekah?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understand our rules for fair play here or unfair play here. We do get to recruit unfair friends, right? Like if there's someone available who can help us out, back us up, I can call on people. Is that
I'm not
right?
sure there's a young Earth creationist that is going to be able to help you tonight, but yes, you can have your unfair friends come in with comments, and we'll display them on the screen, and they can help you by providing information, or attack my argument, I guess, and we will be listening to your comments. We care about your comments, and believe me, I've been on the other side of this hot seat, and I would love to have some unfair evolution and old Earth friends. So okay, well, without further ado, let's get into it. So
Wait a minute.
there
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
What was that?
Rock
Who
you.
is that?
This is my team.
Unfair
These are
family.
my both dogs
That's not
here.
fair.
They got their Googling fingers ready. Okay, for those watching, no. I'm at my parents' house. So this is our parents' house, actually. So we had a little surprise in the works for Nathan. So we're ready. We're ready. So y'all heard that. You've got permission to Google, so feel free to help me out and then jump in whenever I don't have an answer to something. Go ahead.
Well, what is this? Unfair family now? I have to deal with unfair friends and unfair family?
Well, actually, there's only one young Earth creationist here, Mom. So, I mean,
hi, Mom.
And
love you.
Dad are, not really on my side, but
they're the people who are on my side in the future. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
But guys, don't shake the table. You're shaking the table.
I'm on the side of both, but I may be old Earth.
Okay. All right. Old Earth.
Ooh, Taya's belief is resting on this debate. Okay, let's go. Bring on your old Earth.
Okay, so this feature of Earth is 6,200 kilometers long. Okay, it stretches from the basically the Aleutian Islands, or just below the Aleutian Islands chain of Alaska, halfway across the Pacific Ocean, kind of slanting down. And if I could get that first slide there, Jeremy. There we go. And so you can see it here. It's this kind of streak going down from Alaska Aleutian island chain. It kind of takes a little left turn, or left turn from its perspective, I guess, and then it streaks across all the way to Hawaii. I mean, this is huge. This is a huge feature on Earth. It's almost hard to imagine how long this streak of sea chains are. And so go ahead, Jeremy, and go to the next one. So scientists have studied the sea chain, and one of the things that has happened is there's been a boat that's gone out, and it's taken some readings kind of mapped the bottom, and it's taken some core samples. So a successful young Earth creation hypothesis regarding this sea chain. Number one, how did these mountains, undersea mountains, form in a young Earth paradigm? When did they form? And it would have to, in my mind, explain a couple things. Number one, it would have to explain the size and the flux, the amount of magma that has come up to form these mountains. It would also have to explain all of this drift. So over time, I think a long time. Rebekah might say just a few days, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. How did all of this sediment aggregate on the surface? And that's those this kind of mantle of stuff on top. That's those different colored layers. Go ahead and go to the next one, Jeremy. And on these,
you can control your own slides, I believe.
Oh,
so
okay.
You don't have
All
to
right.
tell them. Okay.
Oh, okay, great. Yes. All right, great. So, and then on this mantle of stuff that's on the top, we have different layers. So we have, if you see these little red lines on this chart, we have ash layers, and then we have sediment layers. So these are also things that have drifted over in time, and you can see there's some fine layering. And then also back here, you can see that at the kind of the boundary layer, that's that very center of the page, there's some different layerings going on there as well, where the sediment and the that has happened over time and some maybe volcanic layers are interspersed. Okay. Also, there's fracturing that has happened to this seamount. You can see that kind of this breakage that's kind of in the lower middle of the slide there. So there's some fracturing that's happened, and also the seamount over time has subsided or suffered a collapse. So the slope of the seamount is much less than the Hawaiian islands, and it appears to have subsided. So go ahead, young Earth creationists. How do you explain this? First, how do you explain, 6,200 miles of these seamounts that have popped up on the ocean floor? And how do you explain this particular seamount?
Okay, well, first I would like to ask the question, has there been any dating that has been done on these various layers? Like dating methods?
I've kept they obviously, scientists have a what they believe are dates
Right.
for the sea chain, but I'll go into
And what are those
why.
dates based on? Yeah. What are the dates based on?
Well, they're I think based on the movement of tectonic plates, and the belief that this hot spot in the Earth's mantle, this plume, has been going on a long time, and so as the plates have moved and shifted, it has there's actually two components. I think most scientists believe it's mostly the tectonic plates shifting over time, but there's also some studies of magnetite and the direction of the magnetite little iron filings or whatever changing and shifting a little bit, and so there might have been some actual movement in the exact spot of the hot spot. So I think that's how they're dating it. Here we go. And I do have an unfair friend. Thank you, Joel Duff. All right. Okay. He says the entire sea floor has subsided, which then causes the seamounts to sink over time. The Hawaiian Islands are all sinking at different rates because the plates are sinking, and because of the plates shifting and sinking. But this isn't. Hey, we're still. We want to hear what the young Earth has to say. What hypothesis are you going to spin, Rebekah?
Well, again, Nathan, I feel like you're sort of throwing me a softball, and I think the reason is because you actually have no idea what young Earth people
Well,
say
yeah,
about this type of
illuminate
stuff.
me. Illuminate me.
I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to. So, the main idea that young Earth creationists have about why we see these types of formations is that somewhere between about 45 and 55 I'm sorry, 5,500 years ago, there was a worldwide flood where, the Bible says the fountains of the great deep broke open, right? And so this is where we actually see plate tectonic things occurring. So we just see it as different. The plate tectonics happened very rapidly, not a slow process where, as we see today, okay, the plates are only moving like an inch a year or something like that. I don't know. But so where this actually happened very rapidly during the flood. And so, we had massive amounts of, movement of plates. We had uplift happening. We had volcanic activity happening. So the way that I see this happening is that we've, got the plates moving in a rapid manner. You've got sediments being deposited all over the world. And then you've got, uplift happening where these sediments are being lifted. And can you go to the next slide that you showed?
Oh, this one?
No, next one, the other one with the kind of showing the layers. So what I see happening here is that, at some point, yeah, there was some sort of break there. So all of these things are greatly expected when we're talking about worldwide movements of sediments. And so, this makes absolute sense in a young Earth scenario. I don't really have a problem with it. And then, of course, we've got erosion over the last 5,000 years. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah. Well, I think the devil is in the details. So, so massive worldwide flood. These huge tectonic plates shifting. And so in this case, would you say that the plates shifted far enough, fast enough that this hotspot moved that far across the planet in that length of time?
Moved from where? Like, how far are you saying it moved?
Yeah, 6,200 miles or 6,200 kilometers. Sorry.
You mean deposited? Like what you're saying because you said it moved from somewhere. So I'm saying these are deposits. These are deposits of sediments.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. I have no
so 6,200.
We're talking about the entire Earth being flooded and sediments moving around all over the place. 6,200 miles. That's
kilometers.
Kilometers. Okay, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the seamounts have 500 feet of coral reef on them that can't grow at one time. It grows up as the seafloor lowers at a centimeter or two per year over time. This is Dr. Joel Duff. You're in trouble, Rebekah. I've got a serious friend here. That's a great argument. So we're talking about two things. I think we're talking about the magmatic flux or the magma flux. That's what's the amount of stuff that's spewing out from underneath, right? And then we're also talking about the sediment that's coming down. And now Dr. Joel has also mentioned a biological process, right? The formation of coral reefs, which is basically little tiny let's see, but Rebekah, the massive volcanic mountains have to form first before any sediment can be deposited on them. Then hundreds of feet of coral on top and mingled in with sediments.
And that's something actually we didn't talk about. What types of rock layers are there in that rock layer thing that you showed? Because I don't know what types of sediments those are, so I can't really propose, in what order they got laid down.
Yes, okay, but let's talk about.
You want to talk about the coral reefs? If
Well, no, go ahead.
I mean, we can try to. I will say that sounds like a good objection on its face. And if anybody wants to look that up for me, I know coral reefs are very slow growing, but I'm not sure about the location of these coral reefs. Like, were they coral reefs that were, already present somewhere and then moved? I'm not sure. So I'd have to know more about the coral reefs to try to give a response to that. So that I just wanted to clear that up. I can't answer without more information about that. But let's talk about the types of sediments.
Okay, so all right, so the types of sediments. I'm going to go back to this picture because this is what shows that. So we do have sediments. I've removed the dates on here, but at least I hope I've removed them all. But basically, these are different types of layers. Some of them are brown, and they've got the. I think they've got it. I might have it in my notes somewhere, but anyway, there's some brown layers which indicate under the result of undersea volcanism happening, and there's also some layers of ash that indicate that are black, and so they indicate in atmospheric volcanic eruption. We also have in some layers these glass interclasts, which are some other basically part of the rock. But the red lines here, and these are different places. So these are different parts. So the first three columns are from the summit, and then one is from the flank. And they did choose, when they chose their spots to drill, they attempted to drill at spots that were far enough removed from a channel that's been cut in the mountain by the flow of water over time. They also try to avoid the fault lines that have happened. So, they chose different areas to try and preserve and show what's happened over time. And so we do have these ash layers, and as you can see, some of the layering seems very fine to me on the flank. There's also parts of this where, over time, things have been eroded away by the currents and formed these kind of, mud waves, I guess. So anyway, this is the sediment. But I think one thing I would challenge you on is the amount of volcanic material that came up. Okay, it could cover. I think I read somewhere. The state of California in 1 kilometer of magma or lava material. So, a huge amount of material came up, and over time. And I guess I would ask, number one, did it happen all during the flood? And if it did happen during the flood, why would we see a separation between the lava and the sediment? Wouldn't it all be mixed together?
Well, I still didn't hear you tell me what the layers are made of, because what I'm trying to get at is, are the volcanic layers under, are they like, is this showing? I'm not sure what this is showing me. Are these the intrusions that you're showing me? Like, are these like a place where there was an intrusion of igneous rock or something, or volcanic ash? I don't understand what these layers are made of. So if
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. So the spot that's these sorry, the colored parts here on this bottom picture, these are layers of ash and sediment that have grown up on the volcano. Here, this cartoon may help you, but unfortunately it has some times on it, so I tried to avoid it. So this is kind of you know, the time frame of when things happen. So this top one was the original volcano. Shield. It's got, you know, the shield. Kind of, you think of Hawaii. You know, got this big mountain, but you know, essentially it's spreading out, right? And so you have this kind of shield. We have a comment from Dr. Joel. Each of the atolls west of the main Hawaiian Islands are islands with coral tops. The island are all sinking, but the coral keeps growing up, which keeps the island at sea level.
Okay, and for going with his further comment, further west you go, the thicker the coral top on the mountains, which suggests each island west is older than the next. This is what makes a very powerful argument for a long time. Okay.
I think his are better
Joel
than mine.
says,
Yeah.
so yeah, so the big, and he says the big volcano on Hawaii is the largest mountain in the world, and it is all volcanic material. Well, then, you know, actually, I've been there. I've actually seen the lava flowing from that volcano. And he says, sorry for the chain of comments. I've written a 250-page book manuscript on the Hawaiian island chain. Wow. As evidence of an ancient Earth. So I've got a lot of ideas here. Okay, awesome. Well, this might be one worth revisiting with more information. In fact, Dr. Joel, I would love to have you on the channel to talk about this if you want to talk about what your book says about this. So, but I would just, my explanation right now is that, you know, coral is very slow growing, but I don't actually know how slow growing it is. So I don't know if it's, you know, not fitting in with my time frame. But I do think, you know, if we're talking about like the volcano on Hawaii and that eruption, I would say then that obviously at the surface is, you know, not from the flood. And then in that scenario, I would say the sediments under are from the flood time, and then the volcano is from more recently. I mean, the igneous rock from the volcano is more recently. But I actually think this is more of a problem for an old Earth than you're giving, because I would like to know, where do we see processes like this happening on Earth today, where we have, you mentioned this incredible amount of, you know, volcanic ash and this 6,200-mile deposit. And so, you know, where do we see that kind of thing happening on Earth today?
Well, right now, the Hawaiian, the hotspot, there is a new island forming next to Hawaii. So the process is ongoing. But you know, going back to this, I don't think you've addressed my argument, which is if it all happened during the flood during 60 days, then this volcanic material would have to be spewed out over the course of what, 40 days or less. And
wait, where are you getting the idea that the flood is 60 days? I just want to stop you before you make that entire argument, because the flood was, Noah was on the ark for a year. So where are you getting the idea that like the flood is 60 days?
Well, okay. Well, then you tell me, what is the timeline when all of this volcanic material came up through the crust?
Well, I would say the year of the Earth being flooded, there was a lot of movements of sediment. And then actually it says that, you know, the mountains were lifted up. This is part of the whole flood description. And this is a little bit, right, you know, in the description where it actually says the mountains were lifted up. So, but even after the flood, I think all of the incredible shifting of the plates and all the disruption that had happened to Earth there was probably a lot of volcanic activity that took place after that. So this could be from right after the flood.
Okay, so in 1 year, these volcanoes formed these mountains, including Hawaii. In 1 year, that's your time frame that you think that all of this happened. Yeah.
I said 1 year, sediments are moving around because of the flood.
Okay,
right?
and then
then
what about the
after
volcanism?
that, but after that, there may have been a big, longer period of a lot of volcanism. So maybe I'm just gonna say 100 years.
Okay, 100 years. Okay, so and during that time, for that 100 years, was were the volcanoes above water, underwater, for what period of time do you think?
Why would the volcanoes be underwater at that time?
Okay, so was the Detroit Seamount under the ocean like it is today, or was it above the ocean for that 100 years?
Well, you still haven't told me what kind of sediments other than the volcanic things that you showed me. You haven't told me what kind of sediments are there. So I don't know how to propose whether these are sediments from the flood or if they were already. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joel. He's helping me out with the young earth explanation for this. He said, since my young earth pals aren't really helping me out here.
Yeah.
Search young earth explanation for Hawaiian Islands. Okay, so Smelling would say that they all formed after the flood, or at least starting in the very latest stage of the flood.
Okay. Okay, the seafloor is like 20,000 feet below the sea level out of those seamounts. Okay, so the material that's on top of the seamount, I think it's called the Meiji sediment or Meiji mud. The flow of the ocean current is bringing it from the northwest, I think, and anyway, it's depositing things on it over time, and some of it is material that appears to be from volcanic activity that's occurring under the ocean, and that's a brown material, and the other material is black ash or black, pulverized rock or whatever, and it appears to be material that came from above ground volcanic eruptions. So something that started out in the atmosphere and then I guess landed in the ocean and got transported there. So the red lines on the page are this black material, and the other stuff is this brown sediment that's underwater origin.
Dr. Joel's helping me out again, saying the reason why Smelling and YEC say after the flood is that they argue that most of the seafloor was formed in the flood, and the islands are sitting on top of the seafloor, so they had to form after. So what would you say is your objection to that explanation, Nathan?
Well, I think that much material coming up all at once is not okay. Well, let me make the argument this way. If I look at what's happening in Hawaii now, right? You have periodic explosions or eruptions. Some of them are continuous. But anyway, you have this magma rising to the surface, becoming lava and spreading out and cooling. And that this process is ongoing. And if you look at this picture here, if you think about that happening, if it happened over the course of millions of years, then you would see the same process that's happening today. And maybe the amount of flux has changed over time or varies a little bit over time, but it seems very constant to me that you have this kind of sputtering place on the Earth's surface, where magma is welling up, and it has been, rising to the surface and generating these mountains over time. I think Hawaii, is the tallest mountain if you measure it from the base to the top. But you have this mountain building that's constantly going, and it's ongoing today. There is a new island that's right now underwater, but it is being formed over time in Hawaii. So the process is ongoing right now. And if we just look at what's happening now and trace it back, and then you align that with the way that the plates are moving and shifting and growing, then this, I think, becomes a very compelling argument that this process has been going on for a very, very long time. And if you look at these kind of layers and sediments, that also makes sense that there's different periods of time where things happen, and they build up a record on the top of the mountain. And there are parts of the mountain where it's stayed above the sediment, right? And it's a relatively new volcanism, these orange cones. And so, there is an open debate in among scientists about that this seamount may have been active longer than they expected. But this is because it happened at a later time than the rest of it. So, so there are open questions about, when these things happened, but, scientists are in agreement that this all happened, very long ago, and that the hot spot, which is where that place is, the magma is coming up through the crust, it's moved away. You know what I mean? It's moved across the ocean, 6,200 miles.
Well, Nathan, you said something interesting. You said scientists are in agreement. But when I asked you, what are they basing these dates on? You know what the key word you said is? The belief. Okay. You didn't actually give me a reason, a hard reason why this would have to be over a process of millions of years. And everything that you described with, this is still, I was out at the Hawaiian island. I saw the rock forming from the lava. I saw the lava physically cooling and turning into rock. And you know what? That was happening pretty rapidly. And so the idea that this would be a process that would need millions of years, to me, this is only in the evolutionist's brain, because you guys are so used to throwing around your millions and billions that these numbers don't even mean anything to you anymore. Do you know how long thousands of years is? It's an extremely long time to be depositing lava. There's plenty of time for lava to be forming and forming into these islands. I mean, we could make this formation if there was a huge eruption, then tons of volcanic igneous rock could be formed very quickly in a very short amount of time. This isn't the kind of thing that, to me, needs millions of years. So why should I accept that this has been a process that needs millions of years?
I think part of the difficulty that I have is, when I go into the scientific literature, there is so much information that people, smart people also, this is their whole livelihood, of them going out, and each one is creating a little piece of the puzzle. And the things that I'm reading about are the tiny details that people have been working on, because they're talking about, the waveforms of the mud hills, and everything like that. So it's it's kind of difficult in a way to parse through all of that and make it simple in just a few sound bites, kind of, almost, And I don't know all the information because it would be impossible for one person to know all the information anyway. But that becomes very difficult to distill everything down into a few sound bites. And whereas I feel like with the young Earth creationists, they're not making an explanation how this much material could enter into the surface of the Earth so rapidly and not cause just catastrophe, right? That much energy, that much, everything all at once. All right, so Taya Googled.
Well, I just made an argument and you didn't give me a reason why there wouldn't be enough time. But let's read Taya's comment okay, so it turns out Taya is helping you, not me.
Oh, thank you, Taya.
So, but she's not helping you as much as she thinks, because I was actually hoping this topic would come up. So Nathan didn't try to bring up the radioisotope dating, but I wanted this to come up because there's problems with radiometric dating. So Taya says, info Googled on radiometric dating and radiometric dating of Hawaiian corals and rocks provides evidence for the age of the reefs and the islands, suggesting they are far older than a few thousand years. And put up the next one of hers, please. The vast thickness of some coral reefs and the observed rates of reef growth and subsidence make it difficult to reconcile their existence with the young Earth time frame. Now, I'm still not seeing any hard, like nobody's giving me rates of coral growth or anything like that. So I don't actually know, because I don't just believe whatever I read on the internet. Okay. So I need to see, the coral reefs might be a good argument. I just don't know, because this is not something that I have looked into. Now, but with the radioisotope dating, go ahead and make your argument, Nathan. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I didn't go into that this time because I already did the iron last time. And I'm not sure there was any response there about
yes, there was. If you go back, I heard I killed the iron. Go back and look. Go back and look at the description of our debate on that, because I killed your iron argument. I beat it into the ground. In fact, that used to be used as an argument against young Earth. And now it's, turns out it's actually a problem for your idea. But anyway, let's go on.
Okay.
So, please do, after this debate, in a few days, when I have to look up all this stuff, go back and look at the description, because I will put my responses after I've researched it. And Nathan, you're free to do that too.
Well, let me ask you something. All right. When you open up a Coke, all right, and you have all this fizz and everything coming out, do you expect that Coke to suddenly separate into lots and lots and lots of little layers?
No.
Well, in the same way, I think it's very hard to believe that you would have all of this effervescence, magma, heat, gases outgassing and everything spew out all at once into the ocean. And this is happening after the flood or, whenever. And you're not just, generating a huge problem for the planet for thousands of years, or the tectonic plates. They're saying the entire underground crust of the Pacific Ocean was created in a short time, and yet over time you see that these tiny iron particles in the crust, the needle is shifting on where the North Pole is, or the aligning to the magnetic pole. So I think you could probably poke or challenge anything that I say, and my problem is that I'm not going to have all of the knowledge. But if I just look at the process of what's happening in Hawaii right now, right, a mountain didn't get built overnight. The undersea mount isn't popping up tomorrow and growing to the size of Kauai or Maui or whatever above the surface of the ocean overnight. It's not going to happen in 100 years. People have been living on Hawaii for hundreds of years. and a new island didn't just pop up out of the sea yesterday, right? So we do see some of these seamounts. There was one in Japan, I think, or close to Japan, that was starting to come up, right? And and it goes down, and so that there are these things that are in the process of rising right now. It's an ongoing process. And doesn't it make more sense that that process went on and on and on back into the
Okay.
past?
Well, I think you've just dug yourself into a hole with your sediment argument, trying to make that from a Coke, because there's nothing in a Coke to make sediments form. But if you take different sizes of rocks and sand and all kinds of things that would make up sediments, and you shake them up and then you set it down, you will see it form into layers. And that happens very quickly. And that we can reproduce that right now. And that's exactly what happened in the flood. Sediments formed quickly. And what I'd like to know is there evidence of millions of years of erosion in between each of these sediments? Because that's what you need to have. And millions of years of sediments, that's why I think this is a problem for you. Because are you saying there are evidence of millions of years of erosion between these sediments?
What I'm saying is that they're measuring the rate of these things being broken down, the rates of these things being built up, the flow of water, and they're looking at things in the minutia where they're trying to they can calibrate certain things well enough that they're trying to determine how the atmosphere of the Earth has changed and stuff over time based on these things.
And Nathan, you mentioned that these people are really smart, and I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
And I know many people have dedicated their lives to it, but unfortunately, they, like you, have been deeply indoctrinated. From the beginning of their education, they've been taught all of this crap about the millions and billions of years, even though there's lots of evidence against this. And so they have been deeply indoctrinated by the time they get to their professional work. So they've already embraced this whole paradigm fully. And so what I'm asking you, you didn't actually answer. You did not actually answer. Is there evidence of millions of years of erosion in between each of these sediment layers?
And what I would say is, yes, I could spend the next 3 months going into that to come through all of these papers that I'm digging through to try and answer that one question. But as soon as I do, I'm guessing you will challenge me with another question. So, unfortunately,
and I'll go ahead and throw a couple more at you that you can look at all together.
But that's because is the whole young Earth creation poking holes? I mean, I understand you're challenging, you're trying to challenge the other side, but what I don't see is I don't see the young Earth creationists proving to me that this gigantic tectonic plate shift could happen in 100 days. And I don't see that all of the energy required to move that much material, that much crust, bring up that much magma, that the heat that would be released in such a short amount of time would not just cause the entire atmosphere of the Earth just to poof or dramatically change and become like Venus or whatever. And you can say, okay, it's a miracle. Well, that's fine. But I think that if you're going to say it's through physical processes, that you need to come up with an explanation of how those processes occurred. And maybe they just don't have enough money to research it. But I don't see that. What I see in the world is that it seems like things happen very slowly over time.
Well, Nathan, there's definitely not nearly as much money by far to research this type of thing on the young Earth side, but there are people who have done it. If you look up Dr. Baumgartner, he has a whole plate tectonics theory. So these theories are being put forth, but I'm guessing that you've never looked into them, and that's fine. But I'm just telling you right now, and you're right, I am going to poke holes because I'm going to say, I don't even think we would see these sediments as we see all over the Earth, layers of sediments, if all of these millions of years of erosion had happened, we would see, and in fact, we see sediment layers that go from one continent and pick up on the next continent. So that tells you they were once together and broke up. And so this is the kind of thing we don't even see, the types of large sediments, like thousands sediment layers that are thousands of miles across. We don't see that kind of thing forming on Earth today. So you've got to explain, why does it look like we had a giant catastrophe all over the Earth? Why do we have all of these sediment layers all over the Earth that don't have erosion in between most of them, that don't have evidence in a lot of them of burrowing animals that came in? Why do we have trees that are standing straight up, going through 50 million years of supposed 50 million years of layer? A single tree going through 50 million years of layer? Why is that there? Why is there a whale trapped in what's supposed to be millions of layers of mud? This makes absolutely no sense in your paradigm.
That can go both ways, because I might be able to explain that. But we've never dug up in one of these seamounts an aphelium or something, some
a what?
fantastic, I don't think a Nephilim or whatever, we've never dug something up like that, right? So it goes both ways. If you think humans were around at that time and suffered the flood, right, as catastrophic flood, and that all of these sediments all over the world were created by humans, or were created at the same time that all these humans died, then wouldn't you find a human corpse buried in these sediments that are millions of years old? And I'm not talking about the top, and not a tree going through a 50 million, but I'm talking about where people are saying these are a billion years old. Wouldn't you find a human down there?
How many humans do you know that are living at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, according to the flood account, the whole world became an ocean, right? The whole world was an ocean. So when you see some of those bodies float down to the bottom of the Pacific, and when we open up the Mariana Trench and 30,000 feet down, oh, we found a human down there.
Well, fossilization is not something that happens all of the time. So if a body just floated to the bottom of the water, unless it was rapidly buried by sediments, it's not going to fossilize. It's just going to disintegrate.
They were all buried by rapid sediments. That's what you're saying. This whole world was covered in sediment, and it all settled all at once. So everything would be fossilized, right? Everything would be buried.
Okay.
We would see structures down there, right?
Well,
these gigantic structures, pyramids that they built and everything. Wouldn't they be at the bottom too?
But you're making it sound like, okay, so there had to be sediments, right, that people were standing on before the flood came. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the earth wasn't covered in, So what I'm saying is it's very, go ahead.
Yeah, if we want to poke holes in things, I mean, if we're just poking holes, all you have to do to totally upend my complete worldview is find one huge stone at the bedrock, and under millions and billions of years of sediment. You just have to find one. You just have to find one hewn stone that shows human cuttings on it, or one tree that was cut with an adze. You just have to find one that deep down, and you'll say, hey, look, this flood happened. And I'd have to say, yeah, right, you're right. Because how did that human artifact?
Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting this right, because I'm gonna. At what point do you want to see that? At the Precambrian level? What exactly? Which layer are you talking about that you want to see some evidence of humans?
So if you could find one, let's say in Australia, right? Because that's a very old piece of craton, right? And if you had 1 billion years of sediment, 1 billion years that scientists say, right, lifted up over it. Okay, yeah, sure. It would be very hard to challenge that, right?
Okay,
It
well,
would be even harder if
you
you
know,
found
I'm
if you
gonna
found
look.
a camel train, you know?
Okay, I'm going to look into this, but I will tell you also, this is not really part of my worldview. I don't think I need to find it there for what I'm saying to be true, because
Yeah.
there was an ocean already before the flood. And naturally, if you've got things being buried in sediments, the things that are in the ocean, and not all of the ocean had sediments deposited on top of it, but
Well,
you
it should
would
have been the
naturally have
flood.
things that are already at the bottom. Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
But well, look, you've got what you would naturally find there, right, are the things that are already on the ocean floor. And as a matter of fact, that's what we do find in the Precambrian and in the Cambrian. In the lower layers, we find all the trilobites and all of the ocean creatures, the ammonites and the nautilus, and all of these things that were already at the ocean floor, which makes sense that they got buried there and a human is not buried there, right? So that's my proposal, but I feel like we're getting a little bit off our topic. I mean, it's all related, but so
And we had a
but we've been
text come
going
up
for a
that we
while
didn't read.
now.
Yeah.
Yes, from Jamie, but Jamie asks a question. So do you want to put that up, Jeremy?
Yeah. Why do fossils exist at all?
Anyway,
Yeah. The slowest erosion
why
would
do
have taken
fossils
the
exist at all on an old Earth? The slowest erosion would have taken the entire continent 10 times over. When we measure erosion rates, apply the slowest erosion, why are there fossils at all? And let me expand on this a little bit. But I mean, this is, again, we're straying a bit from our topic.
I think it's a great question.
Okay, now let me expand on it a little bit to bring in the details, because we measure at the West Coast and the East Coast how much erosion is happening every single year. And I think it's more on the East Coast than the West Coast. One of them's more than the other, but it's somewhere between a foot and 2 feet of erosion on each coastline. And when we look from above, we can see, when you look at, maps from above, you can see, or satellite pictures from above, you can see the amounts of sediments that have been eroded off the edge of the continent, right? And I can tell you, it's not 200 million years worth of erosion. This continent is supposed to have been here for 200 million years, and yet there's not that much erosion on the outside. Now, if we had been eroding for 200 million years, this continent, even considering uplift, would not even be here. It would only take 4 million years to completely erode this entire continent. So at least, even if you can say, no, there was more uplift before. I mean, there was, there were times when the uplift was much greater. Yeah, but still all of the fossil bearing layers would be gone. So that doesn't make sense.
I mean, I think this is a great question. And I think, the problem with modern erosion is that a lot of it is human caused, right? So, in Louisiana, the digging of trenches and things for pipelaying and stuff have caused a lot of environmental degradation, and also the dike building around the Mississippi, right? So that's preventing the same things from happening. In New Mexico, on a very lesser scale, the same thing was happening with cottonwood trees. Used to flood every season or whatever, to allow the wood trees to germinate, and that's no longer happening because of man-made changes. But that aside, I do think that this is a great question about erosion. And I think that what happens is that there are periods where there are, kind of catastrophic events. So, one of them was the filling of the Mediterranean Sea, right? So there was a time period where the Mediterranean Sea was a low-lying desert, or, something very low-lying land area. And then it got busted in on by the ocean. And so anything that was there, there's a change that occurs, and so anything that was there before is probably stuck in that state, And additionally, whatever sediments were laid down in that catastrophic flood, are probably going to sit where they're at the bottom of the ocean. As continents separate, the same thing happens with lakes and rivers and things like that. So there's kind of a process that ends up happening over and over again where, you have things separating, salt water comes in, the salt water gets dried out, and it builds up these layers. So I do think that there are areas, at least on the planet, where things fall into an area and then they end up staying there for a long time. Where we're from in Albuquerque, there's 30,000 feet of river sediment or something like, not maybe not 30,000, but anyway, it's a lot of sediment filling the Rio Grande Valley up, and it is changing over time, but it's basically filled up with stuff from Colorado or wherever. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, sorry, maybe we can do that in another episode.
Yeah, I think we'll have to save that for another night. But thank you, Jamie, for being my unfair friend tonight. And so the only thing I wanted to address is the radiometric dating that was brought up, because even though Nathan didn't bring this up, it was introduced as a piece of evidence for this position that these are millions of years old layers. And so the first thing is that only igneous rock layers can be used for with this, because it depends on which type of radioisotope dating you use, which date you will get. Okay, so the different dating methods give different answers. And so they'll say, well, this type of dating can't be used for this. But a lot of that seems to be based on what they want the dates to be. And in fact, they will selectively choose from the data that comes back to choose the dates that they want to match up with the old Earth scenario. So there's a lot of other problems with radioisotope dating, but those are the ones I'm going to mention right now in response to this. So I don't think radioisotope dating is a good way to show how old these islands are. I once again will just say a concluding statement that I don't think Nathan has given us any hardcore evidence that, except possibly the coral. I have to look into the coral because I really don't know about the coral. So I will look into that. So in a couple days, look in the description of this video and see if I say there's no explanation for the coral, or if I can provide an explanation for the coral. And if Nathan has, I don't think he's given any convincing evidence of believing that these islands took millions of years to form rather than just thousands of years, which is quite a long time. Okay, for thousands of years of volcanism to form these islands, I don't think that's a problem at all. And in fact, I'm guessing, I haven't looked at it, but I'm guessing that when we look at the erosion on these islands, it's going to look more like a couple thousands of years of erosion rather than millions of years of erosion in between layers and then redeposits. So I'll just conclude with that. Thank you very much, Nathan, for the challenge. And you can say your concluding statement, and then we'll introduce the thing for next week.
Well, I mean, just real quickly on the radio dating, the general idea there is that the substances in the earth have been there for since the formation of the world. And so there are certain amounts of radioactive substances baked in. And so we know the half-lives of those substances. And so we can then determine how much has depleted over time. And that's why they might choose certain elements to test for, because certain things last longer than others. And so if you're looking at something very old, you might have to look at something that has a very long half-life. But anyway, that's why they don't use carbon dating for things that are very old, because carbon 14, I think it is, decays too quickly. So that's And they also use the carbon dating because, you have a certain amount of carbon that's a little bit different than the ones that are baked into the earth, because you have new carbon-14 being generated in the atmosphere. And so when something dies, then it stops getting that new stuff from the atmosphere. So anyway, there, like I said, there's a lot going on there. And I hate to just, say, appeal to authority here. And I'm sorry if I have not made a good argument with this Hawaiian island chain, but I also feel like it seems a little outlandish to me that all these volcanoes sprung up over 1,000 years or 100 years or whatever it is the young Earths say it is, and I haven't really heard a hypothesis, a clear hypothesis that I could challenge tonight about when did these things actually happen. When did they happen? Did they happen in the flood? Did they happen after the flood? Was it 100 years? Was it 1,000 years? Should we expect a new Hawaiian island to pop up tomorrow? If so, buy me a ticket. All right.
Thank you, Nathan. Can we put up my neck, because I have another unfair friend that chimed in about the radioisotope dating,
Okay.
and I want his thing to be heard. So this is Joel, and has a lot of knowledge about a vast different various scientific fields. So he says the main falsification of radio dating in deep age frauds don't like talking about. What they don't like talking about is how even NIST shields their isotope sampling with tons of lead to protect their readings from contamination. Wow, that's interesting. Isotopes are the least reliable for dating anything, even with very fast parents like we use in non-destructive testing processes. Thank you so much, Joel. I appreciate that. We had two Joels helping, one on your side and one on mine, because this is also Joel. So awesome. Thank you so much. And he has one final comment. It's why in actual science we use parent isotopes to decay into daughter isotopes so we can know the start time. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we can have more talks about that. We can have a longer talk about that, and maybe I'll challenge you on that one day. But so I think we need to introduce our topic for next week. Wait, did you want to respond to anything that Joel just said?
I think we're going to have to separate. We're going to have to have that on a separate time. I think the radio dating is important enough. We should probably have it as a topic in another show. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So let's bring up our topic for next week. My challenge to you, Nathan, is circulatory systems. And I want to know, how do circulatory systems evolve in a step-by-step process when the animal needs nutrients and needs to be able to live, and it can't live without its circulatory system. And every animal that has this, that we look at, has a complete circulatory system. So why don't we find any circulatory systems in progress? And so this is a lobster circulatory system. Can you go to, I don't know if I can control this. I don't seem to have control of it. Okay. So there's the circulatory system, vascular system of an earthworm. And so you can see, even if, earthworms are supposed to be low on the evolutionary tree, but it has an incredibly complex circulatory system. Next slide, please. And I don't remember what this one is. I don't know what that creature is, so I'll have to look that up later, but go on to the next slide. And we're going to talk about, that's a hagfish. Go on to the next one. I just wanted to show these various circulatory systems, and the problem with this is, even go on to the next slide, please. So we're talking about a human circulatory system. How do we get to this? We've got, what has to be involved with this, which came first, the blood or the blood vessels? You're going to have to answer, how do we get blood when we don't have blood vessels? How do we get blood vessels when we don't have blood? How do all these things get integrated? The heart, the lungs, going to the brain, and the brain knowing what to do, and then this going down to each cell in your body, and you only got a few minutes for these nutrients to get to each cell in your body before you die. And it's even interconnected with your digestive system and everything. So
Okay.
how does this happen?
All right. Yeah. All right. So the specific topic is how do circulation systems in animals evolve? Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And just to keep in mind,
Evolution
people,
of
I can't do any
circulatory
research.
system.
I can't do any research. So if I have my unfair friends help me, that would be great. But I'll be thinking. I will definitely be thinking about this topic. I already have some thoughts on this, but I will have to flush out my thoughts and create a new cockamamie theory. But if I have some unfair friends help me, that would be great. And I'll get these slides, right, Rebekah? You will give me these slides?
These slides that I just gave you? I mean, that were on here? Sure, you can have those slides as part of your, ability to know what's going on with the topic. So yes, we can send you those. Okay. All right. Well, can you remove the slides, please? And we'll just say good night to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate our unfair friends chiming in. Thank you for the moral support at Mom and Dad's house. Mom and Dad, do you want to say goodbye? Anyway, so we had fun being here, and I'm so glad. Were you surprised, Nathan, that I was at Mom and Dad's?
No, I knew you were coming out, but I am a little surprised, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye.